after we would watch the news at night and we would see anybody doing anything wrong to anybody anywhere in the world, I mean, that's really who the Headless Children are. Every time we saw, you know, a plane getting blown out of the sky or some other catastrophe happening, like what's recently happening with the students in China, that's who the Headless Children are. So really, that break for me, and it wasn't a 2-year break, it was about a 4-month break actually, but 4 months then felt like 4 years considering we had done a record and a tour and a record and a tour and a record and a tour. And pretty soon, you know, you're bouncing off the walls like Daffy Duck, you know, it's like, hoo-hoo, hoo-hoo, you know, it's like trying to figure out who you are after a while. So it really served as a break to reflect more about who we were and where, more importantly, where we were going. And I mean, you know, then there's some folks you walk up and hit them in the head with a brick bat and it still wouldn't faze them, you know, and it's like, I go, don't you get it? You know, this is like what I've been thinking all along, but I guess this goes back to the whole idea that first impressions aren't lasting and they're seeing what they want to see, you know. I mean, they're still seeing me standing there with saw blades on and stuff like that, you know. Hey, that's last year's model. You know, that's no longer valid. I mean, that's something I did, and hey, and we're not ashamed of anything we ever did, but that was then and this is now. And I think fans romance the idea in their minds of bands staying the same. They don't want them to change because they say, well, remember that first album or that second album, and it wasn't that great and stuff. What they don't realize is that if the band doesn't grow, it's just like anything else in life. If you don't grow, you know, plant a tree, I mean, anything will die if it doesn't have somewhere to go. Solo material for a long time. And I'm more than likely going to do a solo record before the next w.a.s.p. record. We have on our contract, I have to fulfill both of those before anything happens. And I think anytime an artist says that they're going to do a solo record, rumors just start running rampant. So I think that's a lot of what you have. I think Chris's marriage to Lita has probably fueled that flame a little bit, but if somebody knows something I don't know, then it's news to me. Let's put it that way. I think that it's probably the best thing we've ever done. And on a personal note, if a solo record that I'm going to do, or let's say that that song is indicative of something I would do on a solo record, you would hear a lot of that. It's bracing people for what they're going to hear. Because there's things that I've wanted to do for a long time that w.a.s.p. in some ways are a ball and chain around my neck and I can't do. So I think this is a pretty good introduction. So, you know, I'd like to see it go higher if it could. Because when you do something that you think is good, I mean, and this has nothing to do with money, this is just purely recognition for what it is. And I would hate to see the name of the band hold back a song like that.
That you've kind of contributed to, isn't it? How do you get involved in these?
Money. Plain and simple. I'll be flat out honest with you. I've never seen one of those movies before. I have no desire to see one of them. If it was up to me, none of them and I would ever been made. You know, somebody said, well, you know, here's something for you to do, whatever. I says, I got into it, and to be honest with you, I wish I wouldn't have done it. I learned my craft of writing lyrics from Pete Townsend. And the whole idea of the Headless Children was we needed a way to reintroduce ourselves musically to the public. And we thought that the whole idea of, can you see the real me? Because nobody ever really could. I mean, everybody, all they saw was the saw blades and all that stuff before. Nobody could see, like, what I was personally thinking, which was reflective of what this record's all about. So I thought, well, I need another way to let people know what's going on inside. But it's turned out to be a real blessing in disguise because a lot more has happened since then. I mean, I've had a few correspondences with Pete Townsend over this now. And if I can bait the hook good enough, then maybe we'll get him to be on this record we're talking about. Because we've had some conversations about songwriting, and I've told him how I feel about him and what I've learned from him and stuff. And I wouldn't say he's my new best friend, but I've definitely made a friend. I've been put here to do more than it is than I've been doing. And I love music. I mean, it's in here. I mean, even to this day, I'm driving down the freeway at home, you know, I find my fingers tapping on the steering wheel and something's on the stereo that I like. But the whole idea of that is a highly complex situation. To become a senator in California, you have to remember that as goes California, so goes the nation. Very influential, very powerful. And myself personally, I could not compromise my beliefs. So in other words, for me to get where I wanted to go, if I really wanted to do that, I would have to build an organization where I could insulate myself, where I was impervious to outside intervention and influence. And the problem with that is that if you're going to do things that are good for John Q. Public, you a lot of times ruffle the feathers of business. And unfortunately, those feathers are usually attached to very big birds. And when you look through history, or look down through history, history teaches us that anyone can be gotten to. And I don't want to end up being a martyr for anything, especially if you can't accomplish anything.